YTV. Welcome to this week Immigration News Highlights for Sunday, the 16th of February 2020. I'll be taking the news and Kate will be right back here next week. The first news that we have here is coming from Guardian and published on Tuesday, the 11th of February 2020 and written by Harriet Sherwood. It comes under the caption, Justin Welby says he is sorry and ashamed over church racism. Archbishop of Canterbury tells Synod hostile environment should be welcoming instead. The Archbishop of Canterbury has spoken of his personal shame at the Church of England institutional racism and has promised to replace a hostile environment with a hospitable welcome. At a meeting in London of the church's ruling body, the General Synod, Justin Welby said, "When we look at our own church, we are still deeply institutionally racist. Let's be clear about that." He said he was personally sorry and ashamed. "I'm ashamed of our history and I'm ashamed of our failure. I'm ashamed of my lack of urgent voice to the church." Speaking in the debate on the Windrush scandal and racism in the church, Welby said, "I've often wondered how the German church in the 1930s managed to ignore what happened to the Jews. I think they just didn't really notice. And perhaps that's what we've done in the way we've behaved since Windrush." Welby listed his advantages in life. "I have white advantage, educational advantage, straight advantage, male advantage. I'm not ashamed of those advantages. I'm ashamed of not knowing I had them." He said the phrase hostile environment was extraordinary and terrible, but we have to transform it into a hospitable, welcoming one, he added. Welby said church appointment panels, including the Crown Nominations Commission, which recommends new bishops, need to have better minority ethnic representation, along with long lists and short lists for senior clergy posts. That comes on Guardian of Tuesday, 11 February 2020, under the caption, Justin Welby says he's sorry and ashamed over church racism. The next news that is coming right on is from Scotland. We'll quickly take that. And this has to do with Labour candidates. And I think this is something that majority of people in Scotland will want to hear. Long Bailey, Labour cannot refuse Scottish referendum requests. That also comes from the Guardian of Saturday, the 15th of February 2020, and that is by Libby Brooks. MP cements position as only leadership candidate who would grant legal powers to hold fresh plebiscites. Rebecca Long-Bailey has cemented her position as the only Labour leadership candidate who would grant the Scottish Parliament the legal powers to hold a second referendum on independence, telling a hostlings event in Glasgow that refusal would drive more of our voters into the arms of the Scottish National Party. At the only hostlings taking place north of the border, all three remaining candidates emphasized their understanding that the party can only secure a majority at Westminster if it wins back its Scottish heartlands. Long-Bailey said, "As a socialist, I believe in collective solutions and I'm proud to be from the UK. But as a Democrat, if the Scottish Parliament makes the request for a referendum, I don't believe as a Democratic Party we could refuse that." She added, "I also know if we did refuse that, it would drive more of our voters into the arms of SNP," before insisting that Labour could confidently make the case for the UK while recognizing the need to devolve political and economic power out of Westminster. And that comes under the headline, Long Bailey, Labour cannot refuse Scottish referendum requests. And that's from Guardian of Saturday, 15 February 2020. Our next immigration news comes from the Morning Star Online. And this is by Serin Sagar and is published on Wednesday, February 12, 2020. Nigerian woman found not guilty of assault against immigration center staff. A Nigerian rape survivor has been cleared of assaulting 4 guards who restrained her and tried to force her on a charter flight out of Britain. The unnamed woman was under constant supervision at Yazwood Immigration Center because she was at high risk of self-harm and had beaten 3 officers and kicked a 4th in May 2018. On Tuesday, a judge at Luton Magistrate Court ruled that she was clearly a vulnerable lady at the time of this incident. The 48-year-old welcomed the decision and said, "For almost 2 years, I haven't been able to sleep because of this. Now, at last, I'm free." During the hearing, the woman said she was thrown to the floor like a bag of cement during the incident involving 11 circle guards. She said she had been unable to breathe and feared she would die after a blanket was placed over her head. The woman's removal had been cancelled earlier that day. Medical report found that she has sustained multiple injuries during the restraint and she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. That comes from Morning Star Online and under the caption, Nigerian woman found not guilty of assault against immigration center staff. And next is coming all the way from Guardian, and that comes under another caption, at home, I fear the war. Here, I fear the Home Office. The female refugees left destitute in the UK. And that is by Paula Kokoza. And that was published on Wednesday, 12th of February, 2020 on Guardian. What is life like for women who come to the UK looking for safety only to find themselves destitute? More than 100 women have told a charity how it feels to be left without a home or financial help after fleeing persecution. Here, 3 people share their stories. What is life like for women who come to the UK looking for safety only to find themselves destitute? Can they recover from trauma, or does living without a home in a foreign country make them more vulnerable to further violence? In photographs taken by refugees and asylum seekers and in testimony, the charity Women for Refugee Women, WRW, has collected the experience of such asylum seekers. I wouldn't say that they haven't had a voice before, says Natasha Walter, the charity director, but they haven't been listened to. A total of 106 women share their stories of trauma in their home country and their country of refuge for a report entitled, Will I Ever Be Saved? Shockingly, almost 1/3 of the women who had experienced rape or sexual violence in their home country also experience it in the UK, often in coercive relationships or unsafe places of shelter. 3/4 of refugees who responded had been left destitute by the twists and turns of the immigration system, mostly after their claims were refused, and 95% had experienced depression. 1/3 had tried to kill themselves. The statistics are all the more troubling because for many women, the need to talk frankly on arrival in the UK to a stranger from the Home Office about the abuse and persecution they experience in their own countries is simply too hard a task. Who has the words, after trauma and via an interpreter, to tell all that? And who will have the strength to lay the details of their terror bare before officials who appear primed to disbelieve them? Here, 3 women share their experiences and hopes in what they wish they could have found sooner. For further reading on that, please check Guardian of Wednesday, 12 February 2020 under the caption, At home, I fear the war. Here, I fear the Home Office. The female refugees left destitute in the UK. And the last piece we'll be taking today is coming from Morningstar Online. And this is by Bethany Really. And that's again published on Wednesday, February 12, 2020. Couples urge Home Office to drop cruel family immigration rules. Valentine's Day lobby submit 40,000 signature petition calling on government to scrap 18,600 minimum income requirements. Couples forced to live thousands of miles apart by cruel immigration rules brought their fight for family rights to the Home Office today. A group of campaigners and partners took part in the Valentine's Day lobby to submit a 40,000 signature petition demanding that the minimum income requirement, MIR, be scrapped. Brought in by the coalition government in 2012, the MIR requires citizens and settled residents to earn over 18,600 a year before they can bring their partner to Britain. The threshold is higher if they are also sponsoring a child. The MIR has forced thousands of couples to live apart and children to grow up without a parent purely because they don't have enough income. After submitting the petition at the Home Office in central London, the group moved on to Parliament for a meeting with MPs including Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell. Joint Counsel for the Welfare of Immigrant Family campaigner Mary Atkinson told the Star of the effect that MIR has on families. She said one of the women who had joined today's lobby was forced to raise a son alone after her husband's visa application was refused. This led to a downward spiral in her mental health and she attempted suicide. Miss Atkinson explained, if you happen to fall in love with someone from another place and then your government tells you that you don't deserve that love, it can be very difficult for people to cope. We hope that ministers will understand the real impact of this policy. Since 2012, no one has ever reviewed it or seen what the impact is. That comes from Morningstar Online under the caption, Couples urge Home Office to drop cruel family immigration rules. And that brings us to the end of the session for immigration news highlight for this week.
YTV